Hello there, cat people. Dan the Catman here, and welcome to episode 16, of the Shelter Cats podcast. The Shelter Cats podcast is a labor of feline love. It is a amateur, unprofessional, lightly scripted podcast all about the cats that have made a difference in my life, have saved my life, and I'm hoping will inspire you to adopt a shelter cat of your own, or a second or a third if you have enough space. Adopt, don't shop. That's the motto. Right now, as I'm speaking with my Brooklyn accent, in your town, in your city, in your neighborhood, there is an amazing shelter cat waiting right now in a shelter near you, or in a rescue near you, or in a foster near you. So do not hesitate. Reach out to your local shelters and go find that amazing shelter cat, because believe me when I tell you, shelter cats make a huge difference, and they've made a huge difference in my life too. That's why I'm so excited for today's guest. After months of trying and delays, I have my dear friend April Stewart on, which I'll discuss in a minute. But first, I want to hear from you. I'm hearing from more and more people, more friends, more people that reach out through social media that just want to talk about their cats. This is not just about me and my 5 cats. This is about how cats can make a difference in your life. And not by buying a cat, by adopting a shelter cat, taking in a cat that had a bad time or may have lost their home and is waiting for that second chance with you, or a kitten that's waiting to grow up with you and maybe with your children or your family. So I want to hear from you. Don't be shy. I want to hear about your cats, how you adopted them, past, present, and maybe future cats. I want to hear how you found them, what they're like, what their life is like with you, and that those special moments where you couldn't imagine how you could have gotten through that time, whether good or bad, without your cat. So I'm on the web at tylerthecat.com. You can email me, dan@tylerthecat.com. I'm on Facebook, just search Shelter Cats. I'm on Twitter, Shelter Cats POD. I'm on Threads, the new one. I like Threads. Shelter Cats Podcast. I'm on Instagram and TikTok, also Shelter Cats Podcast. And I'm on Medium. I blog every Saturday. Medium, just medium.com/Shelter Cats, or just go on medium.com and search Shelter Cats. And last, but also kind of least, you can support the Shelter Cats podcast. My voice went high. You don't have to. I don't care if you do. I'm not looking to make money out of this. This is about the cats, not me. But you can support the podcast. I'd love to get better equipment and produce a better podcast so that I'm talking into better microphones and not my phone and headphones. So on Spotify, if you go to the Spotify app or the Spotify website or web player or whatever it is, look for the dollar symbol sitting in a little bank. You click that. You can donate any amount you want. You can also go on Patreon, just search Shelter Cats, or email me and I'll send you the link. There are various levels on Patreon where you get greater access to me and you get the opportunity to be on the show in greater frequencies the more you do on Patreon. So that's there. Feel free to donate, but you do not have to at all. No obligation. So with that out of the way, today I am so happy, so excited to finally talk to my friend April Stewart. April and I met many years ago through Facebook. We met through a shared love of the band Yes. Owner of A Lonely Heart, Roundabout, Siberian, Katru. It's a progressive rock band, and for those 3 people that don't know what progressive rock is, it's songs that are very long and go through different changes, and they're just moving pieces. And Yes is just one of my favorite bands. So we met through a shared love of Yes, and we developed a friendship, and we also had a great love of cats. She's had cats her whole life. You know my story about how I've had cats more than half my life and, cats my whole life. And through a love of a certain progressive rock band, developed into a dear friendship over cats. And when she lost one of her cats during the pandemic, I was there for her. And, just was there to listen and advised and guided as much as I was able to. And then a year and a half ago, when I went through an extremely traumatic experience with the end of a emotionally abusive relationship, she was there for me at probably one of the lowest points in my life, where I was questioning whether I even wanted to exist. So, as I've said, as much to Tucker, who was there for me, April was there for me all night long, just talking to me, listening to me, helping me to just process everything that had happened. The infidelity I found out about, just the whole emotional crescendo, just the whole whirlwind of emotions, and just processing it and just getting through that rough time where we split up and I kicked her out of the house. Just an extremely rough time. And she was there for me day and night. And I really mean that, day and night. I would call her in the morning and she would wake up. She'd be a little groggy, maybe a tiny bit cranky, but she would always be there for me. She would listen to me. She would advise me. And her advice was amazing. And I would not have got through that extremely rough time. And anybody who's gone through a bad breakup, you know what I mean. Anybody who's gone through a bad breakup, you know what I mean. There's that person who is just there for you, who just drops everything. No judgment, no anything. There's just, I'm going to help you through this. And she was that person. So, of course, I had to have her on the show. And she's still slightly under the weather, but it was just a great conversation. And she lives in Manhattan, so you can hear a lot of Manhattan noises. You can hear sirens, you can hear screeching. I don't know if that's a bad brakes on a taxi or a subway or something. You're going to hear New York noises, so it's a very New York interview. And I didn't even edit out the noises. I could figure it out. I know how. I have the software kind of lets you do that, but I left them in because I just thought it was so authentically New York and so authentically Manhattan that it just made it such an earthy conversation. So, without further ado, here is my conversation with the one and only April Stewart. And I even got her to sing a tiny bit. Enjoy. Hello, April.
Ooh, I have to put my headphones on. Hello, Dan. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome to the show.
It's working. Yippee. Hi, how you doing?
Good. I'm your host, Guy Smiley. How are you?
Guy Smiley.
I don't know why I have Guy Smiley in my head. So
I don't know, honey.
I'm so glad to have you on the podcast finally.
Me too. Well, I'm so sorry about the times I canceled out, but things happen.
Better late than never. No problem.
Yes, absolutely.
So the purpose behind my show, and I know you're one of my top listeners, and thank you, is how regular everyday shelter cats can make a huge difference in your life. And in many respects, I wouldn't be you, my dear friend.
Aww.
So I definitely wanted to get your story and get you on the show to talk about your cats. I know you've lived with cats your whole life.
Pretty much, yeah.
So how far back does it go? Tell me about your very first cat.
I was a little kid, and my mother and sister decided that we were going to get a cat and that they were going to get it from the Vitae home. And so that's where we went. We went and we got this cat they named him Hector. He was a tuxedo cat, and he was really laid back and chill, which was good. Because in my house, the best thing to be was laid back and chill. So Hector, I didn't get such a close bond with him. I mean, I loved him and everything, but it was after we moved to Hicksville from Flushing that this other cat kind of moved in to our home. She wasn't a shelter cat. She was just one of the neighborhood cats. But she won my heart. She became my close friend, very close friend. She was amazing. She was a very unusual girl. Her name was Susie. I named her Susie. I think she was probably a calico, but she was mostly white with some black patches here and there. Beautiful green eyes. And Susie was such a good friend that she would walk me. I can't believe this. My grandmother couldn't believe it either. I was going to day camp and she would walk me to the bus stop every morning. And then when I got home, she would be waiting for me under the bushes. So I would get off the bus and cross Stewart Avenue to go to Belfry Lane, which is where I lived, and there would Susie be, ready to meet me. And my grandmother commented about this years later. I couldn't believe that cat. She knew when you were coming home. She would go and meet you. Susie was really awesome. She was a beautiful, sweet girl, and she really brought me out of myself because she was so sweet and friendly. And she was the kind of cat, some cats, when you're reaching down to pet them, they'll get up on their hind paws to meet you. Yes. You know what I mean? So she was one of those. She was a really sweet girl. When I got sent away to school, I lost her because I was away. It was like really far away in the Berkshires. And then, then there was another cat, Milo, who belonged to my boyfriend, who brought him home. My boyfriend, I was living in the Berkshires at this point with my boyfriend, and he spent half the week in the city and half the week in the Berkshires. And in the city, he had friends who had cats, and one of them had a kitten, and he brought him home. Milo was really intelligent. Milo was scary. He was a tuxedo cat, but his markings were so symmetrical that it was weird. Every hair. He had a 4-pointed white star on his forehead, just like a horse. You don't see that very often.
No, not at all.
No. And again, very strong personality. He was a bit of a snob. We'd all be sitting in the living room getting high, and he'd come in and look at us and then jump up on the couch and carefully make his way from one end to the other and let everyone pet him once, and he'd keep going. He was the most beautiful, amazing cat.
Sounds regal.
He was. He ran the show. But to get further into the process I had of getting cats from shelters, years later, I had stopped having cats because I was living in public housing and they just wouldn't allow pets, supposedly.
Right.
But I decided I was going to get one anyway. And I was living in Boston in a studio. So it was kind of like I agonized about this. Is this really a good place for a cat? One room, kind of thing. But every time I saw a story on the news about animals being abused, I knew I should really have one because I wouldn't do that. A cat with me would be safe. So I got Pablo. Pablo, I can't even begin to tell you. I mean, yes, he saved me. He saved me in so many ways. I had him while my family threw me out. They all just told me to fuck off and die, basically. And Pablo saved me.
Wow.
He did, because it was a horrible experience. The whole thing that happened with my family was quite difficult and painful, ugly. And it was because of him that I lived. I mean, you know about this. There comes a time when you don't want to get out of bed.
Yes.
And all you want to do really is take a bunch of sleeping pills or something along those lines. And you suddenly realize that your friend with the tail will not have you to look after him anymore, and you can't do that.
Yes.
So that happened with Pablo quite a lot. Pablo, I can tell you some really funny stories about him. He was my watch cat. So when someone came to deliver pizza to me, which happened all the time because I was ordering out a lot, he would go first. He would hear the buzzer from the lobby, someone buzzing to get in. He would go into the kitchen and march around angrily growling. I mean, seriously. And I'd be like, Pops, calm down. And then when the guy came, I would open the door to get my pizza, and Pablo would go out into the hall and glare at him. And you have to understand, Pablo was a very big cat. He scared my neighbors. He was really big. Eventually, the pizza guys became familiar with him, and they would come. And if he wasn't there, the guy would be like, "Where's the cat?
What's missing?"
Where is he? Where is he? Yeah, he was amazing. He was so sweet and so intelligent and so aware.
And
And
apparently
huge.
anti-pizza.
He liked pizza. He just didn't like the guys coming over. But eventually, I would say to him, "Hey, calm down. They're here to bring me my dinner. Chillax." Um, and she got used to it. And then Dave and I got married, and Dave moved in with me. And we got a cat to be companion to Pablo because we knew at this point that we were going to be moving to New York and that we were going to be moving into a bigger apartment. And we thought Pablo would really do well to have a friend with him to experience the trauma of moving.
Right.
So we got a little girl cat named Hazel.
Hazel.
Hazel came from a shelter. She did. She was the cat that Pablo came from a shelter too. He came from the MSPCA. Hazel came from a place called the Pat Brody Shelter for Cats, which was out in the suburbs. It was out there. Like, I couldn't get there. A friend of mine had to give me a ride both ways. And Hazel was this exquisite little confection. She was a dilute calico, so she was all like her gray was all silvery. She had the kind of fur where the hairs looked like they'd been dipped in silver. She had the most beautiful green eyes and the sweetest personality. She was just a lovely little girl. Well, Pablo hated her immediately. Hated us for getting her.
Aw.
Oh, yeah. He was pissed off at us. He was pissed off at us. He actually, at one point, he just went right in front of us in the living room and took a shit on the floor. And Dave yelled at him. "Don't do that. How dare you? Nah, nah, nah." And I said, "Dave, chill. He it's his house. He's freaked out." It was weeks before he forgave us. And that was really bad because up until then, he had always been really friendly with us and affectionate and sweet. And now he just wouldn't speak to us.
Was that the only time he crapped in front of you, or did
Yes.
he do that a few times?
Oh yeah, that was the only time he got angry enough to do that. That was not good, actually. No. But
that's a very strong message.
It was pretty clear and vivid. And Dave slapped him, and I said, "Don't ever do that again."
Yeah, we don't condone that.
Yeah, you don't do that. He's upset and he's pissed off, and no, can't do that. And I made a real point of that in front of Pablo, who saw it all, and I know he knew I was sticking up for him. So eventually, Pablo forgave us, and eventually he forgave Hazel. He started to be friendly with her, but he wouldn't play with her. She was a kitten. She was really playful. She was a bit of a pest. the way kittens are.
Uh-huh.
And he just wouldn't play with her. He wouldn't do it. So that sucked. But eventually they did at least become friends.
Okay, like tolerated each other?
Well, yes. I mean, they displayed affectionate behavior with each other. They did.
Oh, good.
They would sniff around each other's eyes and noses and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So this was after we moved. Yeah, they got along. They got along. They became friends. I didn't ever see them cuddling, and that made me sad, but I couldn't make them.
But the sniffing is a good sign.
Oh, it's a great sign.
I do that with all my friends too. When I sniff them, I know they know I like them.
Yes, I particularly enjoy the smell of someone's mascara. You're so weird.
Anyway.
Anyway, yeah. So then Dave and I decided we were going to get a third cat. And we got Trompy. That's Trompy. Don't ever mispronounce it.
I was going to say,
No.
I thought I heard something else.
No.
This is a show about cats, anyway.
No, actually Dave named him. Dave was South African, and he came from a whole different culture. Well, there was a series of children's books and then a children's TV series about a little kid named Trompy.
Trompy.
Yeah, that was his name. Trompy Itabaksum Banders. And I'm not pronouncing it right, and don't ask me to.
Okay. No worries.
It was a story about a show about a little kid who's a naughty little shit, as Dave said. But he was always getting into trouble, but he was always helping the police solve crimes. So he wasn't a bad kid. He was just a pain in the ass. And Dave thought that was a really great name for this kitten. And it was. And so Trompy became our third cat. And yeah.
And was Trompy there with Pablo and Hazel?
Yes.
And how did that work out?
It didn't, because Pablo died almost like a matter of months after we got Trompy.
Oh.
Yeah, it was horrible, horribly sad. Yeah. But Trompy and Hazel got along pretty well, actually. They became pretty good friends. I've got pictures of them cleaning each other, grooming each other and stuff. So they were good friends. And
cool.
So Trompy was a really vivid cat. He had a really interesting personality. He was in the shelter that was for a company that's known as Kitty Kind. And their organization is quartered at the Petco at Union Square. And that's where Dave and I found him.
Oh.
On an adoption night. Kitty Kind at the time was really bad. They aren't now. They're great now. But Trompy came to us with a bunch of illnesses, and Kitty Kind really kind of didn't treat him. Like a lot of the money to save Trompy came out of our pockets, and that was bad for us. But he had all kinds of issues. I mean, this happens with kittens that aren't well cared for. He had giardia, and he had some other parasites, and he had ringworm, and again, the people that ran this company didn't do anything to help us with him. Even though their contract said if he came to us with pre-existing conditions, they were responsible for paying for them, and they did not.
That breaks my heart.
There's a lot about Kitty Kind that was heartbreaking at the time. But in the end, I mean, Dave was making good money, so we were able to take Trompy to a good vet and get him good care. But it affected him,
Right, of course.
So that's my story. I mean, at this point, Trompy and Hazel have both departed this earthly plane. And I have gotten 2 other cats. Neither of them is really from a shelter. They were both kind of accidental, wonderful gifts. Right after Trumpy died, I went to the Humane Society with Hazel because I was going to get her teeth cleaned. And this woman sitting across the waiting room from me engaged me in conversation about Hazel and the fact that I was there, and I was trying to figure out if I should even get another cat anymore, if Hazel should just be my only cat.
Right.
She seemed to enjoy it, but at the same time, she was lonely. And I could tell she was lonely. She would go stand at the door to the bedroom and meow. So this woman that had engaged me in conversation, her name is Roseanne, Roseanne Andrade, and she's got a 501c3 permit or whatever it's called. So she's a known cat rescuer. So
Right.
she had brought in a cat and her kittens to be spayed, neutered, and fixed and shot and all that to the Humane Society. And she said, listen, if you want one of these kittens, I'll give you one because I've got 3. And I kind of gaped because I was still trying to decide if I wanted to get another cat or not. She gave me her email and her phone number, and probably a few days later, I emailed her because I could see Hazel was lonely.
Right.
And so, hi, honey, hi. Jordy's over here. So I asked her for one of the cats. She said, she emailed me. She said, I've got 3. One of them is a male and he's all black. And I said, oh, I'd like that one. I wanted a male to be friends with Hazel. I thought that a male would be a better friend. I don't know why. I just thought it made more sense. And I wanted a black cat because I had read recently that black cats have a hard time getting adopted.
Very true.
And I thought that was horrible. I mean, they're beautiful. So I said, give me the black one, and I'm going to name him Jordy, which I did. And she said, okay, in 2 weeks, I'm going to meet you at the Humane Society when I pick him up after he's had his neutering, and you're going to take him home after that, and it's free. Oh, meow yourself. So
Speak of the devil.
he needs to be fed. Actually, he's right. There isn't any tuna. You're gonna have to wait a few minutes. Trust me, he'll keep this up for a while. He's tenacious. So yeah, I went there and I got him January. I think it was January 5th. I mean, it's on my calendar because it's our anniversary. So I went there with my backpack cat carrier, and I got him. And he was a kitten, but he was really big. Big kitten. Gorgeous kitten. And meanwhile, Hazel's tiny. So I brought him home. The first thing he did that showed me anything about him, I brought him home. I put the cat carrier down. I unzipped the opening for him so he could get out, but I left him in there. This is a new place. He has new people around him. Let him come out when he wants. Besides, he just had, some rather significant surgery. Hi, Annie. Let him come out when he's ready. So, Roseanne had given me one of his favorite toys. It was a ball. And so I kind of threw it across the floor, and then I just left it there. So he comes out. He sneaks out of it. It was really funny how he did this. He snuck out of the opening in the bag, ran over to the ball, grabbed it in his mouth, and ran back with it into the cat carrier.
My ball.
I know, right?
I'll take that. Thank you.
It's fine.
That's great.
In the midst of, because this was a really sad time for me. I mean, I had just lost Trumpy, and Trumpy was a very close friend to me. But this made me laugh my ass off. And I realized, I'm dealing with a real person here, and he is. You know how if you're trying to close a door and you're trying to get the cat to get out of the way, a kitten, and you'll push the kitten out of the way and the kitten will just move?
Not Jordy.
No. He would get up on his hind paws and claw at me. You want me to move? No.
cat knows what he wants and knows how to get it.
I know, right? So I was like, okay, so he's pretty cool. I'm glad I have him. He is really cool. He's really cool. And then Hazel died. So, and that
we were friends by that point.
Yeah, we were. And this was at the beginning of the pandemic, which is part of the reason that she died the way she did. Because I couldn't get her to a vet and have her put to sleep, and I knew she was really sick, and I couldn't do anything about it, and it was horrible.
I couldn't imagine.
I can't deal with the memory. I really can't. It was so traumatic. And then months later, I got Hebe. Not through your friend. What's her name? You had a friend. Yeah, you had a friend that you were trying to hook me up with, who kept telling me she had a cat for me and then disappeared.
It happens.
Huh?
It happens.
Yeah, it was like really obnoxious because I was falling in love with this cat that I was never going to have. But months later, I finally got Hebe. Hebe is also a very vivid person. She's also a calico, but Hazel was a dilute calico and Hebe is a calico. She's actually kind of a torbico, I think, because her body has a lot of tortoiseshell in it, but her face is pure calico. And she's really talkative and bright and funny. And she has kind of I wouldn't say a love-hate relationship with Jordy, but she's still reluctant to completely trust him. Yet she does like him, and she rubs noses with him sometimes, and I catch them grooming each other. So I think it's going to be all right. I'm hoping.
Yeah, if they're grooming, they're good.
Well, they're not doing it all the time, and he scares her. He does. He'll startle her. She startles easily. She was not a shelter cat. She was a street cat.
Yeah.
And she was rescued from the street. And her whole first year of life was really bad and painful and traumatic. So if she's been here 2 years now, and if she's still having a little trouble accepting Jordy, I'm like, okay, do what accept what you can accept. Sometimes I'll step in and I'll tell her, he's okay, he's not going to hurt you. And I'll talk to him. You have to be a little more gentle. She didn't, you're scaring her, because he did that to Hazel too. He's a bully. He is. But she is too. So sometimes things don't work out well, and sometimes they do. And that's my cat story so far.
Well, that is wonderful. I learned a lot that even I didn't know, and I'm so glad I didn't mispronounce Trumpy. Now,
yeah, please.
I would be remiss to not ask you about. Now, we met through a love of cats, and we met through a love of a certain band called
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I would be.
Yes.
We sound like we're stuck. I would be remiss to not ask. Now you're also you are a singer.
Yeah.
How do your cats? You have a unique perspective of you listen to what, in my opinion, is the best kind of music ever, which is Yes, and this is a podcast about cats, so we won't go off on a big tangent. But how do your cats, when you're like singing at home, whether you're just kind of doing your thing and you're humming along, or if you're actually like practicing a song, how do they react? And have certain cats reacted better? How does that, being a singer, how does that fit in with your cats?
Sometimes, okay, when I'm doing my scales, they ignore it. I mean, they've heard it enough times. They know what it is. They don't care. Will you shut up? Jesus Christ.
He wants to be on the show.
No, he wants me to give him some tuna. He's right. It's time for more tuna, but he can wait. It will not kill you.
And not just any tuna, Trader Joe's tuna.
Oh, you know why? Because it's really inexpensive, and they love it. It's human grade food, and it's cheap. What else can you ask?
And hey, Trader Joe's, if you want to sponsor, reach out to me.
Hey, Trader Joe's, I love your new flavor of ice cream. It's really good.
Wait, what flavor of ice cream?
Oh my God. You'll be sorry. It's called Golden Caramel Swirl, I think. But
Oh,
it's
no.
like, oh God. I saw this, I was like, oh my God, I'm in big trouble. So it's swirled vanilla and chocolate, but with caramel swirled all through. It's really good.
I'm already getting a headache, an ice cream headache.
It's really good. It's really, really good. I'm going to make a point of buying in a lot of it because they have this habit of discontinuing things that I really like. So, oh yeah.
So anyway, you were singing.
But sometimes one thing I noticed with Trompy in particular is that he really liked John Anderson's voice.
Interesting.
He did. I'd put him on the speakers, not the headphones, and he'd just kind of sit in my arms and go, "Oh, wow." When I sing to either cat, like I sing "You Are My Sunshine" to Jordy, and he'll nuzzle me. Hebe, I made up a little song for her, and she hears it. I can see that she's listening. I don't think she's excited to death by it or anything, but she hears it. And she knows that I'm singing her song. But they're not, they're used to it. It's not a big deal to them. Now, if I ever get my stereo set up so that my speakers are really functioning and I've got actual music in here, they'll both flip out. I know they will, but cats get used to all kinds of things. And they're used to me singing. Even when I sound awful, which happens.
What is? Can we get a tiny bit of a Hebe song?
No, honey, I've got a really bad sore throat today, and I've got all this gut dripping down it. I'm really pretty awful.
Well,
let's talk about cats, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the whiskers and the litter that will be. Let's talk about cats.
That's perfect.
Let's talk about cats. Yeah.
Thank you. I was hoping you'd sing at least something.
Something stupid, which is what I did. But
no,
my voice is I'm like really rusty, and I haven't worked in a long time, and it's there, but it's barely there. So
I might make that the theme song of the podcast at some point.
Why not?
Well,
what?
April, this has been amazing.
Oh, I love you so much. Thank you for including me. You are the most awesome guy.
Oh, stop.
Mr.
Listen.
Cat Daddy.
I'm going to keep saying it whether you want to hear it or not. I would not, as much to Tucker, I would not be here today if it wasn't for you. I really would not be here today.
Sometimes people just need someone to listen. That's it. And I'm glad I was there. I'm just glad I was there.
Well, you are the best. I love you like a sister.
And you are my brother from another mother.
You are the sunshine of my life. I will not sing because I sound worse than... I sound like a cat in a litter box. I will not do that.
Oh, dear.
But thank you so much for being on the show.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
When you feel better, we'll have you sing some more, hopefully.
Okay. I'll tune up the guitar.
I would love that.
Oh, my God. My guitar sucks, but you've heard me whine about that enough.
And when you get that ice cream, let me know. I'll be on my way.
I have it right now.
If I didn't have work tomorrow, because we're recording this on a Thursday night.
That's right, we are, yeah.
And, and just so everyone knows, we're recording this in early July, and it is 7 p.m., and it's still 84 degrees.
It's really hot, yeah. It's really hot.
So make sure your cats have enough water.
Oh, yeah. If you've got outdoor cats, people, make sure they have fresh water and a place to go in the shade, because animals really shouldn't be outside when it's this hot or hotter, and it's going to be hotter in the next few days. To me, this is just normal summer, and I'm not upset about it at all. It's a little much, but who cares? This is not like what my friend John Alexander Hall is experiencing right now in Las Vegas.
Oh, God.
So I'm not going to whine too much.
No, and I have friends in Texas, and it's like 110.
Oh,
So,
fuck.
on that note, my dear, thank you so much for being on the show,
Thank you for having me on.
and we will talk soon.
We shall. Have a lovely evening, okay?
You too. Good night.
Bye.
Bye. And there you have it. Wasn't that amazing? New York sounds and all, sirens, screeching, cats, music. I loved it. That was exactly what I was hoping to capture. That is April. She's got stories upon stories upon stories. And now I want that ice cream from Trader Joe's. It sounds really good, even though, if you eat ice cream too fast, you get brain freeze. But it sounds like it'll be worth it. There's not any Trader Joe's near where I live necessarily. So I'm jealous that she has one so close to her, because when I do get to a Trader Joe's, their tuna is very good. It's inexpensive and it's good quality tuna. And again, Trader Joe's did not sponsor this episode, but if they ever wanted to, that would be great. Not that I'm looking for any sponsors, but if they wanted to, reach out to me. But anyway, that was just amazing. It made me really happy just to hear her history of all the cats that she's had, and their personalities and how special they were to her, and how they helped her through such difficult times. And we even got to hear from Jordy, who really wanted his treats and wouldn't take no for an answer. So I hope you enjoyed that really, really down-to-earth conversation with a wonderful, wonderful person. We'll definitely have her on the show in the future. And that could be you. So if you have amazing stories, again, I want to hear from you. So I can't sing, not at all. That's as close as I'll get. But definitely, please, would love to hear from you. I'm hearing from more and more people, so I want to hear from you too. But until then, keep your cats safe, keep your cats cool. Make sure they have access to plenty of water. I'm going to have an episode soon where I go through my favorite cat products, and make sure your cats have access to a lot of fresh water, a lot of shade, as much as you can. Keep an air conditioner on, keep a fan on, because remember, if you're hot, they're in a fur coat, so they're twice as hot as you. So make sure they have somewhere cool to stay, and plenty of shade, and plenty of water, and plenty of food that has moisture in it, so that they get as much moisture in their bodies as possible. If you see your cat panting in any way, shape, or form, make sure they get access to water. And if they don't stop panting, you might want to bring them to a vet ASAP. Just look for those kind of signs. Take care of your cats in this hot weather, and take care of yourselves. And we'll see you next week.